In this video, I will be going over every platinum trophy I earned in the year of 2022. Each game on this list will consist of the following: a platinum acquired this year regardless of the release date, a quick review, a rating out of 10, and the overall difficulty to acquiring the platinum trophy. I will also be giving out some awards at the end of the video, so you have to watch the whole thing. You really have no choice. It's going to be a long video, so grab a snack and use the bathroom if you haven't already, and please enjoy the video. Future Nick here, approximately 2-month-older Nick here. I put the video off for so long because I just didn't feel like doing it. But if you're watching this right now, obviously you're watching this video that I just put out. But I'm also here to tell you I have a new microphone. Check it. So that's why I sound different now than I do in my intro, and it sounds cleaner, much crispier for your viewing and listening pleasure. That's all I have to say. Enjoy the video. First game on the list is Horizon Forbidden West, the direct sequel to 2017's Horizon Zero Dawn from Guerrilla Games. This game is definitely an improvement over its predecessor. Some of the new features include the ability to glide, swim underwater, and unleash new melee combos. Definitely one of the most beautiful graphics I've ever seen in a video game. I'm going to give my final score 9 out of 10. Only a couple of things hold this game back, like the climbing. For example, it feels janky and there's not much freedom when it comes to it. Like in some spots, you have to take a very specific climbing path when it looks like there are other ledges you can climb up, but you can't. Platinum is pretty straightforward. It requires completing the story, revealing the whole map by climbing tall necks, killing every machine type, completing every challenge at hunting grounds, and getting your character to level 50, to name a few. This game gets a 3 out of 10 for difficulty to get the platinum. It's pretty easy, but it is a little long, taking roughly 30 hours of play to get it. Now on to the next game. Next on the list is Elden Ring, an action RPG developed by From Software, the studio that developed the Soulsborne games. This game is right in line with the mechanics of their previous games, but this time it has a vast open world instead of different areas or levels to complete. Soulsborne games are notorious for the insane level of difficulty it possesses, and this new entry is no different. The gameplay is simple, but it's also complex, requiring you to really pay attention to your opponent's moves. You are expected to die a lot in this game, and there's no avoiding that. It's pretty much required that you die, and you learn from how you die. The story is hard to understand, and the game does not make it very clear on how the story is progressing. The art style of the game is very good, and the graphics that go along with it are pretty insane. One of the best looking games ever created, in my opinion. I'm giving this game a 9.5 out of 10. It would be a 10 out of 10 if the story was easier to understand. Now, the platinum seems easy on paper, but the game's sheer difficulty makes it very hard. It requires getting different endings, defeating the main bosses, as well as some of the optional ones, and collecting every sword, shield, sorcery, incantation, talisman, and ashen remains. The platinum gets a 6 out of 10 for difficulty. Ghostwire Tokyo is an open-world action-adventure game developed by Tango Frameworks, most known for the work on the Evil Within series. This is their first game that doesn't include the traditional horror their previous games possess. The game wasn't very well received by critics, and I can definitely see why. The game lacks a lot of depth. The combat is subpar at best, with 4 basic attacks and basically no combos. It's very repetitive and pretty uninspired. The traversal is clunky for a game where you basically have superpowers. It's imprecise, especially during the combat. The story was pretty forgettable as well. I had to look up the plot because I could not remember what this game even was about. There's only a couple good things the developers did well. Visuals are pretty solid, and the design of the open world is well done. It really feels like we are in an abandoned version of Tokyo. Side quests were also really well done. They didn't feel repetitive, and they were all pretty engaging. I just wish the main story quests were like that. My final score for this game is a 7 out of 10. The platinum is pretty straightforward. It requires completing the story, completing the map, finding all collectibles, and completing all the side quests. The Hero of Shibuya trophy is the one that requires the most grind. It will take hours and hours to grab every last spear in the city. In terms of difficulty to get the trophy, I will give it a 3 out of 10. If you're looking for just some stupid fun, especially one you can play with your friends, then this game is for you. A spin-off game of the Borderlands series, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is played entirely in a game of Dungeons and Dragons. It features classic Borderlands gameplay with lots and lots of weapons and an affinity for magic. And for the first time in the series, you can now use melee weapons, which actually is pretty surprising that it hasn't been included before in the series. In my opinion, this game is better than Borderlands 3 in every aspect too. My main issue with the game is it's pretty repetitive. Overall, I enjoyed it well enough, and I will give it a solid 8 out of 10. Platinum is not that bad until you get to this trophy, Controlled Chaos. It requires completing 20 different runs on this roguelike type game mode that unlocks after you finish the game, called the Chamber of Chaos. The run gets longer and longer and harder as you complete each run. It's definitely a grind, as this trophy alone takes 10 hours. Some other trophies include completing the story, the side missions, and all the dungeons. There's even a couple of multiplayer trophies. For difficulty, this platinum is a 5 out of 10. Next up is Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection developed by Naughty Dog. This collection includes remastered versions of Uncharted 4 and Uncharted The Lost Legacy for the new generation of consoles. Uncharted 4 is one of my favorite PS4 exclusives, and with the PS5 version it looks even better. Lost Legacy is a nice little spin-off with some of the side characters from the series. It's not one of my favorite games from the series, but it is still enjoyable. Naughty Dog's games have always been staples of the PlayStation brand. Their games have always been in high regard from all aspects like graphics, story, and gameplay. If you have a PS5, this is a must-play, and it's now on PlayStation Plus, Extra, and Premium catalog. These games get a 9 out of 10 from me overall. To get the platinum, you must complete both games on the hardest difficulty, grab all collectibles, and complete a speedrun of Uncharted 4 in less than 6 hours. There's a lot of combat related and story related miscellaneous stuff that I don't want to get into, but they're not that bad. The plat gets a 5 out of 10 for difficulty, mainly because the hardest difficulty is pretty damn hard. Speaking of Naughty Dog, next game on the list is The Last of Us Part 2. From this game on, you'll see that I've been platinuming some older games that I've already played because I didn't care about getting the trophies when I played them the first time. But now that I'm into it, I wanted to play some of these games again. So this game has been very polarizing because of the story and some of the characters, especially this specific one. If you ask me though, I think the whole argument is stupid. People have complained about Joel getting murdered like he didn't deserve it at all, and I'm just like, dude, have you even played the first game? The man killed everyone in an entire hospital to save his pretend daughter because she was immune, and the only way to develop a vaccine was to kill her. It's pretty messed up, and if you say that makes him a hero, then I don't know what else to tell you. This game gets a 9.5 out of 10 because it's what it deserves. Everything about this game is very detailed and well polished. Platinum is relatively simple. All you gotta do is finish the game, find all collectibles, and upgrade everything, as well as a few miscellaneous things. The difficulty gets a 2 out of 10. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is an action RPG that takes place in ancient Greece. The Assassin's Creed franchise was really starting to get stale at this point, but I really enjoyed this one. This one was one of my favorites in the series, even though it's not really about assassins anymore. And in my opinion, it's a very content-packed game. The story is pretty good, but a little on the long side. And there are lots of side missions that aren't all that great, but there's definitely worse. The combat is good, with 2 basic attacks, light and heavy, and there are special abilities you can unlock. You can use many different types of weapons. There's also ship combat that resembles Black Flag, and you can take sides between Athens and Sparta in battles. I didn't even get to my favorite feature yet. You can bang a whopping 14 different characters. So on that note, I give this game a 9 out of 10. The platinum is easy, but very time consuming since the game is so large. You must complete the game first of all, and complete all the quest lines for some of the characters. You must also kill every member of the Cult of Cosmos and unveil all regions of Greece. There are many more trophies, but I won't go over them all. Overall, since this platinum is time consuming, I will give it a 4 out of 10 for difficulty. The Last Campfire is a cute little puzzle game from Hello Games, known for creating No Man's Sky. In this game, you play as a character named Ember, who must solve puzzles to help abandoned souls find their purpose. The whole game is narrated, which actually works really well for it. The puzzles vary from easy to hard, especially getting harder later in the game. If you're looking for a small puzzle game, then I highly recommend this one. I will give it an 8.5 out of 10. The platinum is probably the most straightforward on this list. All you have to do is complete all the puzzles, which I think is required to beat the game anyway. It's about a 5-hour game, so it's an easy platinum, getting a 2 out of 10 for difficulty. Next up is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It's an action-adventure game, developed by Respawn Entertainment, known for developing Titanfall 1 and 2, and Apex Legends. Plenty of people nowadays call this game underrated, but I really don't think it is. It's a good game, don't get me wrong, but it just feels a little unpolished to me. I can't explain why. However, the combat is very fun. Kinda reminds me of the Souls games a little bit, especially with how the levels are leveled out. The story is okay, not terrible or anything. The sequel is coming out soon, and I think Respawn is going to improve everything and really knock it out of the park. At least that's what I'm hoping. My final score for Fallen Order is an 8 out of 10. Platinum isn't very difficult. You have to beat the game first and foremost, but you also have to collect all collectibles except for Force Echoes, for which you need 75 out of the 113 that are in the game. There's some combat trophies, but you'll get most of them naturally, and cleanup is pretty easy for the ones you might have left. My only trope is that going back to levels for the collectibles is a little bit of a pain, because you can't teleport to different areas of the map, and the maps really aren't small at all. Nonetheless, I give this platinum a 3 out of 10 for difficulty. The one and only VR game on this list, Beat Saber is a rhythm game where you slice blocks to the beat of music. Probably the most well-known VR game, and for good reason. It's just tons of fun, and it provides a nice workout. I actually play this game daily to get a workout in. It's easy to play, but hard to master. If I were to recommend a VR game to any new players, this would absolutely, without a doubt, be my #1 recommendation. Just because it's so simple to understand and easy to love. I give this game a 9 out of 10. In order to get the platinum, you must complete the campaign. There's some trophies for just playing the game a certain amount, but there are some trophies where you need to be quite skilled. For example, the No Mistakes, Flawless, and Hope trophies can be challenging. I really don't know how to rate the difficulty because I easily went to the hardest difficulty of songs with no problem, but a lot of others can't get past hard. But I think I will give it a 6 out of 10. Next game on the list is Assassin's Creed Origins. This game is the first in the series that shifted from a traditional action-adventure type game to more of an RPG. The game takes place in ancient Egypt, following the origins of the Assassins and Templars, which you know is the name of the game. I really like Origins, and what they decided to do with it. People were really getting sick of the same old AC format, and Ubisoft really tried to change it up, and I applaud them for that. This game, along with Odyssey and Valhalla, are pretty damn packed with stuff to do. A lot of the game is done well, but in my opinion, the combat isn't my favorite. There's a new modern day protagonist in this game too, but it's pretty lame. Nothing really happens in the modern day, and the character Layla isn't as fleshed out as Desmond was. This game nonetheless gets an 8.5 out of 10. The platinum is not that difficult. You first have to finish the game and do only certain side quests. You must also complete all locations, which means every question marked location on the map must be completed, usually by looting treasures. The rest isn't that bad. There are some miscellaneous trophies for doing things for a certain amount of time, which you'll probably unlock naturally. As for the difficulty, for how long the game is, it gets a 3 out of 10, for not being as long as Odyssey, and the trophies are a little easier. Shadow Warrior 3 is a first-person shooter developed by Flying Wild Hog that honestly is a little underappreciated. The gameplay feels a lot like Doom, which I think there's not enough games that feel like they draw inspiration from Doom. The game makes you feel like a ninja with lots of guns, which was a lot of fun. The story is forgettable in my opinion, mainly because I forgot all about it, and it's very short. But there were a lot of funny moments. This game gets an 8 out of 10. The platinum is pretty easy to obtain. You must complete the game and obtain every upgrade. There are combat trophies too, which include doing 100 finishers, kill 100 enemies with your melee weapon, electrocute 50 enemies, and others. You probably won't get all of them during a normal playthrough, but it's easy to grind the remaining ones by replaying missions. This game gets a 2 out of 10 for difficulty. Sifu was a game I thought I would never platinum. I played it when it came out, but it was just too damn hard for me. Harder than any Souls game, no joke. Sifu is an action game set in China. The objective of the game is to defeat the guy who killed your master. To do this, you must progress through 5 different levels filled with enemies, and each level has a boss at the end. Each level is also harder than the last. The revival system is pretty neat. Anytime you die in game, your character gets older, and the really neat thing is as your character gets older from dying, your attacks are more powerful, but your health bar goes down. It's a very unique system, and it works well for this. Now after I tried countless times, I couldn't get past the 3rd level, so I stopped playing. But 5 months later, a new update was released, adding an easy mode. Your attacks do more damage, your health goes down less after each hit, and you age slower, which means you basically get more lives. This game gets an 8 out of 10. Getting the platinum requires beating the game with little deaths, collecting every collectible, reaching a high score in a level, and some combat trophies in some specific levels. On normal difficulty, this game would be a 7 out of 10 for difficulty honestly, but on easy mode, it's much more doable, getting a 3 out of 10. Golf with your friends is a pretty fun golf game, especially with your friends. I decided to play this game because it's an easy platinum. The physics are a little funky, but I think that's part of the charm. The game includes 13 courses, and some are themed after other games published by Team 17, like The Escapists and Worms. This game is pretty okay in my opinion. I give it a 7 out of 10. To get the platinum, you must complete 10 different courses getting par or better, take 1,000 total shots, get a hole-in-one, get 10 albatross, and finish a custom mode and couple other modes. This platinum gets a 2 out of 10 for difficulty. I didn't want to spend much time talking about this game, so on to the next one. During the Game Awards, there's always an indie game that gets nominated for lots of different categories. For 2022, that game was Stray. It's an adventure game, and the first title developed by Blue 12 Interactive and published by Annapurna Interactive. Annapurna is honestly becoming my favorite publisher. They keep on putting very good games like Gone Home, Outer Wilds, and Neon White. In Stray, you play as a cat that gets separated from a group of cats by falling down a chasm. Your goal is to get back to the surface. On your journey, you find yourself in a city only occupied by robots because all the humans died. You should just play yourself because it's a well-done game. The graphics are beautiful and the gameplay is pretty smooth. You can fit in small spaces, knock things off shelves and buildings, and jump pretty high, although it's a little restricted on what you can jump on. The game takes roughly 6 hours to complete and it's a fun little experience. This game is a 9 out of 10. The platinum is pretty easy and takes a couple playthroughs. You have to find all collectibles, complete specific trophies in certain chapters, and complete a speedrun of the game in less than 2 hours. The speedrun is pretty easy, I think. I completed it in 1 hour and 40 minutes. Overall, this gets a 3 out of 10 for difficulty. Spirit of the North is an adventure game developed by Infuse Studio. In this game, you play as a wolf who gains powers after collapsing from exhaustion. There's no dialogue or any narration in this game, and I don't have a good feeling about that. It just feels empty. The only thing I really liked about the game was the soundtrack. It's very beautiful. Everything else on the other hand wasn't that great in my opinion. The gameplay was very boring, it's just a lot of jumping and holding the stick forward. It's a short game too. I just can't recommend this to anyone unless you want an easy platinum or you just want a chill adventure game. But for me, I just didn't enjoy it. I will give this game a 6 out of 10. Like I said, the platinum is pretty easy, and only takes about 6 hours to get it. It's easy if you follow a guide throughout your playthrough. You will get most trophies naturally, but you must also awaken all spirits and greet all spirits in the spirit world. And you must also light all murals in the game, and do some miscellaneous stuff, like hold a staff for 3 minutes. This game gets a 2 out of 10 for difficulty. Arguably the easiest platinum on the list, Minecraft Story Mode was developed by Telltale Games and released in 2015. Telltale is known for their story-driven, episodic point-and-click adventures, and have released games in very popular franchises, like The Walking Dead, Borderlands, Batman, and Game of Thrones. Their platinums are usually the easiest in games, even my first platinum was a Telltale game. So, in this game you play as Jesse, who you can choose to be boy or girl. Your goal of this game is pretty much to save the world. I'm not going to talk about it much. Fun fact, you can't buy this game anymore. It's been pulled off of all stores after Telltale closed down. But it's a fun story, and it's got a lot of funny moments. I will give this game an 8 out of 10. Now every trophy in this game you get naturally, except for 3 of them. Those 3 trophies are Leveraging Resources, That's Some Pig, and Griefer Madness or Occam's Razor. You get one of those 2 naturally because it's a choice in game. As a Telltale game, this gets a 1 out of 10 for difficulty. Next up is my personal favorite Call of Duty, and the one that I played the most as a kid. Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remastered was released pretty randomly in March of 2020. Only the campaign was released, which is pretty disappointing. I would have loved to play the multiplayer again, as it is my favorite for any Call of Duty. The remaster updates the graphics and adds new animations for some scripted scenes. Killing innocents in a Russian airport has never looked better. But for the lack of multiplayer and Spec Ops game mode, I will give this remaster a 7.5 out of 10. In order to get to Platinum, you must complete the game on Veteran, find all enemy intel, complete every mission without dying, and various miscellaneous tasks scattered across all the missions. 2 playthroughs of this game are recommended, one on Veteran and one on Recruit. You can easily select which mission you want to play to do cleanup after your playthroughs. Veteran can be pretty challenging, and because of that, I will give it a 4 out of 10 for difficulty. Now this next game, in my humble opinion, is the most unnecessary remake I've ever heard of. The Last of Us Part 1 is the remake of the PS3 game released in 2013. The reason why I call it unnecessary is because not enough was updated or added to warrant it necessary. The remake includes updated graphics, character models, animations, lighting, and AI. When I think of the term remake, I think of games like Demon's Souls, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening, Resident Evil 2, and the very recent Resident Evil 4. These are games that got drastic graphics and gameplay improvements. But The Last of Us, if you put side by side a video of the original and the remake, you may have trouble guessing which is which. The gameplay is pretty much unchanged, and plays almost exactly like the original. And to top it all off, it was released with a $70 price tag, that which is is a big mistake. The Last of Us is one of my favorite games ever created, and it's made even better in the remake, but this game was absolutely not worth that price at all. That said, if I just look at this game as a whole, without making any comparisons to the original and ignoring the price tag, I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. The Platinum is pretty easy to obtain. All you really gotta do is finish the game and DLC, find all collectibles, and specific chapter-related trophies. It can all be done in 20 hours or so. So for difficulty, I'm giving The Last of Us Part 1 a 2 out of 10. Toem, I think I'm saying it correctly, is a relaxing photography game developed by Something We Made. This game is played from a top-down perspective, and in it, you will visit different Scandinavian towns. While visiting, NPCs ask for your help, and you have puzzles to complete by taking pictures of different objects. The playable character gets stamps for every NPC they successfully help, and once you get enough stamps in one area, you can take the bus and move on to the next. This game is best played without a guide until you finish the game, because it just takes away from the charm, and it's not that long. This game is an 8 out of 10. The Platinum is very easy, because it's not that long and nothing is missable. You have to basically 100% the game by finishing the game, completing all quests, take photos of all wildlife, take certain unique photos, and equip every clothing item. It may sound like a lot, but it's really not, and it doesn't require a lot of time put into it. For that reason, I'm willing to give this game a 2 out of 10 for difficulty. Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, released in 2016, is the updated version of the 2007 video game of the same name. This remaster updates the graphics, animations, and sound effects of the original, but unlike Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, this game includes the multiplayer mode, which I actually still periodically go back to this day. When this game was released, you could only get it as part of a bundle with Infinite Warfare. Many people were mad about this, since it was forcing people to buy Infinite Warfare, which many people just didn't want because it's too futuristic and so out there. The reveal trailer still has a record for the most disliked video game trailer ever. Anyway, the remaster's multiplayer didn't go over so well because it was pretty unbalanced and it was littered with microtransactions. The campaign was solid though, so with that said, I'm giving this game an 8 out of 10. The Platinum is very similar to the Modern Warfare 2 one. You must finish the game on Veteran, find all enemy intel, and do various tasks in certain missions. And just like Modern Warfare 2, Veteran can be pretty challenging, and I will also give it a 4 out of 10 for difficulty. Now this game was so nice, I decided to platinum it twice. Outer Wilds is a game I really think everyone should play at least once. I don't want to give away spoilers, because if there ever was a game to exist that you should go into completely blind, it would be this game right here. So Outer Wilds is an action-adventure game developed by Mobius Digital and published by Annapurna Interactive. Your goal is to uncover the mystery of the solar system by exploring various planets, and that's all you really need to know. It's a well-crafted game that was made with care. Without a doubt, my favorite part of this game is the soundtrack. I even just listen to it in my free time, because it's that good. Overall, I'll give this game a 9 out of 10. please do not follow a guide or anything when playing this game. It's best played figuring everything out by exploring yourself. The platinum is pretty straightforward, but there are a few trophies you might have to attempt multiple times. You must complete your ship log by discovering everything in the solar system and finish the game without dying, which is pretty easy as it can be done in less than half hour. There are a bunch of small trophies, but they're very easy to obtain and some that could be challenging. Overall though, for difficulty, I will give this game a 3 out of 10. Watch Dogs 2 is an action-adventure game created by Ubisoft. You play as Marcus Holloway, a skilled hacker working with the hacker group DedSec. In the game, you bring to light awful practices of some huge businesses and how they are screwing over the general public. To do this, you must hack your way through security or shoot your way. I think you can even go through the whole game without killing a single person, which is pretty cool. Marcus can hack many things in the environment to progress in missions, like security cameras, traffic lights, vehicles, and people's phones. You can even get just random people arrested by hacking their phone and making them wanted by police. There's a multiplayer mode, which I've never really enjoyed, but it's much better than the first game. Everything about this game just seems more fleshed out than Watch Dogs 1, and Watch Dogs Legion is a step in the wrong direction. So this game is definitely my favorite in the series so far, and the next game needs to be more like Watch Dogs 2. With that said, I really like what they did with this game, and my final score for it is an 8.5 out of 10. Now, you'll get the majority of the trophies in your normal playthrough and nothing is missable. As well as finishing the main story, you must also finish the side quests as there are trophies for multiple of them. The ones you may have trouble with are the online trophies. You have to be able to find other players online to get them, but when I did it, the game was pretty populated honestly, and it wasn't terribly hard. As for difficulty, to get the platinum, I will give this game a 3 out of 10. Deliver Us the Moon is an adventure puzzle game developed by Kyokin Interactive. I'm probably saying it wrong, but whatever, I'm not a poet. Anyways, in this game you play as a lone astronaut who is sent to the moon to save humanity from extinction. Earth has lost all natural resources, and 5 years prior, the link between the Earth and the moon has been disrupted. This event is known as the Blackout. Your objective is to re-establish that link and save everyone on the planet. On your journey, you discover everything that led up to the event by picking up collectibles, like audio logs, holograms, and scannable objects. Now the game isn't very long, which is good for a game like this, as it can be quite boring. This game is for people who just want a chill narrative and like solving some puzzles. There's no enemies in this game, the only enemy is the environment. You can die by failing puzzles or running out of oxygen in some areas. Your character feels sluggish and heavy when you play as them, which can kinda make some puzzles annoying. But the beauty of this game is the story and the music. It's a nice little experience that can be completed in a few hours. I will give this game an 8 out of 10. To get this platinum, you pretty much have to find every collectible in the game, so I suggest doing 2 playthroughs. One of just enjoying the experience, and the second to follow a trophy guide. There's some other side trophies to get in specific chapters, like spinning a globe, running to your ship with less than 4 seconds left on a timer, and my personal favorite, sitting outside doing absolutely nothing for 30 minutes. Exhilarating stuff. So it's a simple trophy by following a guide, and I will give it a 2 out of 10 for difficulty. two games in 2022 that many people believed would win Game of the Year at the Game Awards. One of them was Elden Ring, and the other one is this game right here. God of War Ragnarök is an action-adventure game developed by Santa Monica Studio and a direct sequel to the 2018 game God of War, which is my personal favorite game ever. In this game, you play as Kratos, 3 years after the events of the first game. You embark on an epic adventure in an effort to decide the fate of everyone living in the 9 realms as Ragnarok approaches. Everything about the first game is improved upon in this one. The combat is much more engaging, with more abilities, weapons, and attacks. You can explore all 9 realms instead of the 6 in the first game. The visuals, graphics, and art style are also more refined. The story is full of amazing moments and surprises. The ending even made me cry a bit because it was so beautiful. This game is a masterpiece. There's no other word for it. My final score for it is a 10 out of 10. In order to get the platinum, you must 100% the game. That means completing the story and all side quests, finding every collectible, and fighting every boss. For a game this big, that's not a hard trophy list. For difficulty, I give it a 4 out of 10. Life is Strange is an episodic graphic adventure developed by Don't Nod Entertainment. This game is very similar to a lot of games made by Telltale. It's a story-driven adventure where you uncover the mystery of what happened to Rachel Amber, who is the best friend of your ex-best friend Chloe. You play as Max Caulfield, a pretty silent photography student at a prestigious art school in Oregon. The twist is she discovers the ability to time travel, which the mechanic works in a pretty engaging way. You can make choices in the game, and if you don't feel like you made the right one, you can just rewind and choose another option. You also use it to solve puzzles, and it really makes you think of what to do. As for gameplay, there's nothing really more than that. The story, on the other hand, has lots of twists and turns and surprises. It really does it well too. One of the things I don't like about it is some of the dialogue. It has a lot of slang that just feels outdated, and some of it really makes me cringe. Other than that, it's one of my favorite interactive story games out there. This game earns an 8.5 out of 10. The platinum is easy and very straightforward. It requires 2 things: completing the game and taking every optional photo in the game. Some of the optional photos are hard to find, and I highly suggest following a guide on a second playthrough of the game to get them. But it's fine to do and all in one playthrough too. For that though, the difficulty to get the platinum is a 2 out of 10. Now, onto the final game of 2022. The last platinum of the year is for the Callisto Protocol, a game developed by Striking Distance Studios, a studio created by the original creator of Dead Space, Glenn Schofield. In this game, you play as Jacob in the year of 2320 on Callisto, the second largest moon of Jupiter. Now this game was purposely made to be just like Dead Space, which it does to an extent, but the issue is it's a shitty version of it. Dead Space is better in almost every way. For example, Dead Space has more versatile weaponry. Dead Space has a better inventory system, and Dead Space has more frightening enemies. Callisto doesn't even have a map, and probably has the most badly designed final boss fight I've ever seen. But there are some things that Callisto does better, like melee attacks and the ability to dodge and counter. The graphics are very sharp as well. That's about it, honestly. I give this game a 7 out of 10. For this game, I suggest 2 playthroughs to get the platinum, the first on easy or medium difficulty while finding the collectibles, and the second on the hardest difficulty. There was an exploit that you can do to get the hardest difficulty trophy, but it was patched out and can no longer be done. Other than finding collectibles and finishing on the hardest difficulty, you must also completely upgrade one weapon, kill 10 enemies using the environment, and stab 5 enemies in the back, and some others you can easily naturally obtain. Just for the hardest difficulty trophy, the difficulty for this plat is a 5 out of 10. Now if you made it to this part of the video so far, congratulations, you made it through the main part of the video, and now we're on to my awards for 2022. I have 4 awards to give. These awards are Most Enjoyable Platinum, Underrated Title, and Game of the Year. Now the last award is for the most annoying platinum, the platinum that I just didn't enjoy getting. It was just so bad. But here are the awards. Now, my award for most enjoyable platinum goes to Toem. I enjoyed getting the platinum, it was just a lot of fun. There's free DLC that came out that I have yet to play, but one day I will get to it. It was a really fun game. Now I will go to the disgrace of the group, the most annoying platinum. And that award goes to Ghostwire Tokyo, especially for this trophy, to get every last spear in the city, and it was really, really bad. It took so much time, I just wanted to die throughout the whole thing. It was really bad. I don't recommend it. Now, on to the most underrated game that I played in 2022. This award goes to Cursed Golf, a game I did not platinum, but it was really fun to play. The platinum looked difficult, I just didn't want to go for it, but it was a really fun game to play. It's a roguelike golf game. You play 18 holes on randomly selected levels. They're not randomly generated. They're randomly selected from a big group. You get power-ups. There's some bosses that are nice to play against, and it was just a really fun game. I recommend it for sure. Now, on to the big one, my game of the year for 2022. And yes, this is a game I platinum. And it's also the only game I gave a 10 out of 10. This game is God of War Ragnarok. This should surprise absolutely nobody. It was amazing. It was a really, really good experience. Much better than the 2018 version, God of War. They did everything well. It was a lot of fun. The combat was great. I loved it. Story was amazing as always. And yeah, I can't recommend it enough. Everyone should play it. But yeah, that is it for my awards. Now to close this out, I want to thank everyone for watching. I know I'm uploading this 5 months late, but I'm lazy. I just didn't feel like doing it. But that's changing at the end of 2022. The next platinum video, I will do my best to upload it on time. But yeah, that's all I got. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.